just start with a reflection on your part, because I think you have explained in one of your interviews how you did experience colonialism, Portuguese colonialism, and then obviously the transition from that. Perhaps you could just tell us your observation of the difference and what legacy, if any, there was from the Portuguese colonialism, what legacy was left in Guinea-Bissau, and in a sense, basically the whole of Africa, I'm sure.
Yeah, please allow me to start greeting everybody here and thanking you for being with us, and to talk a little bit about my not much known country, which is situated in West Africa. Yeah, about colonialism. As you said, I was born in '58. In 1963, we started an armed liberation struggle right in the south, and I am from the south. And yeah, that fight was very, very tough. A lot of things. You know that we defeated the colonial army, which was supported by NATO. Okay? So this means a lot. And there was a lot of suffering. Talking about colonialism itself, it was very, the Portuguese colonialism in the last decades, because the fight ended in 1974 with the coup d'etat in Portugal. During those 11 years, we witnessed a lot of things. And I, being from the south and being, well, when the fight started, I was 6 years old. I was there. I have seen a lot of things that happened. For instance, when I started going to school, when I arrived at the age to go to school, there were no schools for me. There was only in my village nothing, but in the town, the closest town, there were 2 schools. One called official schools, which is for the the kids from the civil servants, and all these things, these people. And there was
for local civil servants or Portuguese civil servants?
There was only one government, authority.
Okay.
It
so
was.
For their children.
No, it was Portuguese civil servants, but they were not Portuguese, European. Some of them were Guinean black people, So I attended the only school available, which is a missionary school. It was tough because my parents, they are Muslims. But that missionary school, everybody had to be Christian. So my father had to decide either I go to school and become Christian, or remain Muslim and without the opportunity to go to school more. My father made a choice, and I attended that missionary school. This is just to give you an overview. I'm not going to talk about the other details, but just give you some statistics.
So then come independence, right?
Mm.
And your generation is the first generation to take over, to build this new Guinea-Bissau.
The second generation, I would say.
Okay. Oh, there was, of course, because you were just coming. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you feel that the promise not so much the promise has been met, actually. That's not really the question. But now, thinking back then, can you think about some of the mistakes that were made? What could have been done differently?
We did a lot of mistakes. We did. And I think one of the mistakes we did, maybe the worst one, is I say we, I was not part of that game. They killed the leader that we had. They were the visionary guy that showed us the way to go. They killed him, and after that, without leadership, the door was open to do a lot of mistakes, you know. And
his name? Maybe you can tell us his name?
Amilcar Cabral? Amilcar Cabral, yeah. Yeah, he was killed in 1973, month before the proclamation of the independence. And then we entered a cycle of violence that we still are in. Coups, real ones, fake ones, and so on. It is why my generation, meaning the generation that witnessed that epic moment of independence, we feel so disappointed and at some level so powerless, because the system we have in place, and this is something that we could discuss more in detail in another context. We did not manage to keep things going the way they were supposed to go. So we failed, in one word. We failed, our educational system failed, everything, actually. But basically, at the level of education, we did not manage to prepare the younger generation for the task. I mean, technically, but also ideologically, to be what they are supposed to be. And we were told that we wanted, it's not much said, we wanted to be free African, proud of themselves, and that's all. They asked Cabral what they asked, who are you? And his answer was famous, and we used it, all of us. We said, we want to be simply free African, proud of ourselves. So what that in concrete terms means, you know, we can argue about that, but it is an answer that provides a certain level of humble and consciousness too, you know. Think of it, we lost.
With the death of Cabral, that ideology, that passing on, that went away, and now it was just, not even education, but there was no political concentration.
Yeah, this is like a body without a head.
There's usually, in most writers, but when you read a book, there's always a central idea, there's always something that the writer will always be trying to communicate.
Yeah.
There's something you want us to you want to live with us, the reader. And this will normally be found in all, it'll be a running theme in all the writings of different writers, right?
That's right.
So this is the question that I'm asking. In your particular case, the books that you write, what is the underlying running theme? Even in the plays you did, what did you want to leave? What did you want us to go away with and to hold in our hearts?
There is a single issue. The one that we as Africans, we can do the job. As I mentioned earlier, my childhood was marked by several tragic events. One of them was trying to convince me and other people that we Africans, we are unable to rule ourselves. Okay? This is a big challenge to me, and everything I do, everything I write has this purpose, to show that we can do it. And to make the common citizen believe that there is room for hope. You know, there is one thing that we need to learn from other people. I'm talking about missionaries. What do? Their work is based, among other things, in one principle. They try to convince us that there is another world besides this one, which is better than this one. They've never been there. But they do it in such a way that we believe them and we follow them. In doing so, we make sacrifices because we believe that tomorrow we will get something better. This is what we should do. This is what a writer, a politician, you name it, should do. Let our younger generation believe that instead of going to the desert and trying to flee, to Europe to find what? Some sort of happiness. They can be happy in their own country. But we need to convince them, not by a decree, not by coercion. Do what the missionaries do. Convince people, that you can get the job done. Yeah, this is what underlies my the philosophy, the purpose of my writing.
This hope giving. Abdulai, can I ask, can hope really be a strategy?
Excuse me?
Giving hope is a strategy?
It is a need more than a strategy. And this is a must. This is a way of being. Even when you do not have hope, people of my generation need to have hope to provide to other generations. Sometimes you talk about things that that is hard to achieve. But there is one thing that I learned while studying engineering, which is very important to me. Nothing is achievable until it is conceivable. First thing you have to do when you want to achieve a purpose, when you want to do, and want to make things happen, you should be able to conceive that. It goes in the same line as the other thing we talked about. Let people believe that there is a way out, that there is room for hope, and they will follow you. And they will embrace that purpose. They will fight for it. Okay? So, this is something that literature can do. You can read a book, you can, quote unquote, sell your ideas, make that image of another country possible.
Okay. I'll just come to the audience after this next question. Abdulai, many years ago I read something by Achebe. He was talking about the reaction to his book, Things Fall Apart. Mm-hmm. And he said that after well, he had done a presentation somewhere, something similar to this, and a young man came up to him and he said, I want to thank you for your story, because when I read your story, you have helped me to understand my father. Finally, I make peace with my father because I've understood him. I'm thinking about some of your, either the plays or the books you've written. What has been the reaction? Have you ever had any reaction, especially from the young people who are coming afterwards, who I think are your target?
Yeah, I have had
A couple of stories maybe you can tell us?
Oh yeah, I have a lot of them to say. First of all, from people from my, how you call it, my own village, where I was born and grew up. And when I go there, they treat me well. But it is not me who is at stake. It means that if we invest in education, we can, aspire to get a better living. Where I live, I currently live again in a village. I was born and grew up in a village, and I went back to another village. Okay, I have a community there that supports me a lot and gives me a lot of joy. Because of what? Because of the work we do together. Working with women, teaching them to read and write, alphabetization. Okay, all these things. Working with them on grassroots is, in my point of view, something that you do not get results immediately, but you throw the seeds for tomorrow. And this is what we need to focus on. The fight today is almost lost, but there is still a lot of things to do to make sure that tomorrow will be different. And in doing that, there are small things that happen that make you feel really happy.
Can you tell us one?
One, I can tell you a story with a girl that she wanted to go to high school. In her village, there was only the so-called basic schools, 6 years. After that, she had to leave the village. And one day she told me she had an interview talking about, life, my trajectory. And believe it or not, she found me. So far away. And she explained to me what she wanted and why she wanted to be a doctor. People took her for a crazy girl, because how comes so poor, so far away from the urban area, to have such an aspiration? But I believe that I can achieve this goal because you did it. It's okay, let's work together. And now she is about to get a diploma.
Oh, wow, okay. Good story.
Yeah.
Yeah, just by communicating
If
with
you make people believe,
Mm.
they will move mountains.
Mm. I'll still come back because I want to hear a story about the impact of a book either people read. I'll come back to that, but let me see the audience. So you've all been sitting very well behaved quietly there. Anyone has a question, a comment, an observation you'd like to make?
Okay, I enjoyed the discussion on hope. And I'm just wondering, as a writer in Africa, I like the idea of what you said, that we need to pass on the hope as writers to our audience. And I'm wondering, how do we, as the writers, get that hope? Because sometimes you're in it and you're seeing like all the bad things going wrong, you know, and like what you said at the beginning, the one leader who could have saved your country was killed, yeah? So time and time again, as young people, we put our promises, we see leaders promise things and then they let us down. And then we see a lot of bad things happening, a lot of corruption, a lot of, extrajudicial killings. So how are we to get the hope so that we can pass on to, how can we start fostering that hope? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, this is a good question. And this is a question that we deal with every day. But there is one thing that one has always to keep in mind. Failure is not an option. When you wake up in the morning and everything seems so difficult, so disappointing, so tragic, you tell to yourself, I'm here for something, and I cannot accept that I failed. So failure is not an option. From that point, you start putting, piece by piece, the elements that you need to face the battle. And another thing is you should be able to find in small things the motivation that you need to move forward. There is a lot of disappointments, believe me, but do not focus on that. Look at the other side of of the story. And there is always another side. For people that I came from, it is really something deep in our soul to keep believing that we can change the situation. We defeated colonialism. You need to remind yourself that you are part of a society that achieved a lot of things. So you will not be the one who will give up first. I'm not saying you should torture yourself, but you need to find stimulus. And that stimulus comes from the past also. I'm not saying exclusively from the past. This is why it is important, Lucy, to write about our history, to sell the image of people that succeeded. Heroes that are not the ones that were taught at school, the winners. We need to tell the story of the lion, not always the one of the hunter. So, when you do that, you feel more motivated. You got in a better mood to move, struggling. Do not expect miracles. Okay. Again, do what the missionaries do. Sell that image. Keep selling that image. And, start from motivating yourself.
Thank you. Anybody else out there? Yes.
So, it seems like the role of an artist is to inspire the society around them. And so I just wanted to ask, perhaps from your perspective, what kind of story, what kind of play, what kind of books would you write if you knew that nobody would read them?
Say it again.
what kind of stories, plays, books would you write if you knew that nobody would read them?
Oh, I never start from this point. When I write, I convince myself that I have something to say, something that is worth sharing, a story that can be read with some level of interest, you know, and above all, think of it as a kind of mission. I failed, my generation failed, but the next generation should not fail. You see, the situation we have today in Africa, mostly in the part of Africa I am from. Yesterday, there is a coup d'etat that happened in Burkina Faso. It's second in 1 year, this year only. We are having coup d'etats everywhere. We are having people killing each other, neighbors that used to share, you know, everything together. Now they are killing themselves. We have a situation where it looks like a kind of game of anticipation. And writer is required to be part of that game. What is it about? It is about fueling the mind of our youth with the right ideas, with the right proposals, with the right initiatives, instead of joining people that keep doing the bad things. What is happening in Mozambique, in the north of Mozambique, which is closer here? You see, killings. People are killing. You ask them, why are you doing this? Because somebody else anticipated, input in their mind wrong ideas. And they are doing this like robots. If we manage instead, and if we anticipate those guys and help these young people, you know, to get the right ideas, the right thoughts, the right motivation, nobody will get them doing the things they have been doing lately. So, when you write, back to your question, when you write a story, you do it thinking what impact it could do in a specific audience. And you will never, ever admit that nobody will share your story, that your story will be so poor that it wouldn't interest in, you know, nobody will read it. It will be of no interest at all. No. You say, I have something to say, because dialogue is what literature is all about. We need to talk to each other. Current generation, and we keep, through our books, that dialogue with the coming generations. You mentioned the book by Chinua Achebe, Things Falling Apart. It is read today. It is a source of motivation, inspiration for a lot of people. It was written in 1958, you know, over 60 years ago. This is what we should try to do. Follow the path of the, you know, people that we should consider as our mentors. And see writing as a way of promoting dialogue.
I have another question here from the audience, and the question goes back to colonialism. And she's asking that, did Portuguese colonialism, was it such that it undermined the people in Guinea-Bissau and made them feel, obviously, and think that they were uncivilized. And so already they undermined the independence process so Portugal undermined the independence process by making the people feel that they were uncivilized, that they cannot rule themselves. And would you also say that that is a pattern that was repeated all over Africa, not just Portuguese colonialism, making people feel that they're not able to rule themselves? They're not good enough, basically.
Colonialism means oppressing people, dominating people, means people, reject themselves and adopt other, models, other ways of seeing things. By the way, let me just share one information with you about minds being colonized, to use the expression that you prefer to Nguji wa Chiongo. Do you know how many $1 million are spent in Africa in things that are, useless?
iPhones?
No, not iPhone. I'm talking about rejecting themselves. The way bleaching. Look at Michael Jackson. How many operations he did to make his nose like the white guys want? Why did he do that? Because he refused himself, being who he is. And why? Because here, in his mind, there was something wrong. Okay, and this is what colonialism was all about. Convincing you that you are unable to rule, to take care of yourself, so you need a master. And this game is going on. Institutions like IMF and things like that, they have the same task. They do it differently, but it is the same thing. So, no matter what they say, and again, it is this issue of the narrative. Who tells which story? Which story are we hearing? Our own or somebody else's? Remember, when the story of hunting is told by the hunter, there will be no appreciation for the lion. He will never tell you what really happened. He glorifies himself. So colonialism is more or less this. They work on your mind to get you doing what they want you to do. Mostly you without knowing. Corruption that we witness everywhere. It is happening everywhere, and it is a shame. African government, being so corrupt. And corruption doesn't mean just stealing money or putting money in their own pockets. Corruption means taking what is a common property, taking money that should be used to build our prosperity, to build schools, roads, and deposit it in an account. Before it was in Switzerland, now it is somewhere in Asia, in Dubai. This is the kind of behaviors that we inherited partially, I say partially, from what we get from colonialism.
But then, do you find, and you've come to a question that has been on my mind, that this argument about colonialism, we've been independent for too long to still be talking about colonialism. Yeah. So when you begin to even talk about colonialism, you already lose your audience, especially the young audience, because they think, well, this was like many, many, many years before I was born. One. Two, the people who took over still have agency. They have agency, they're acting beings. So they can't keep saying, they're not robots that we inherited this from colonialism. This is what we're being made to do by the Western powers. To a certain extent, they're making the decisions themselves that I'm going to take all this money for a hydroelectric plant and I'm going to keep it in my Swiss bank account. So I feel sometimes that we are almost denigrating them and minimizing them by saying, oh, you know, they've been influenced. They haven't. They know perfectly well what they're doing.
They know. But there is one thing, very important, it is not much visible. Where is the spirit of solidarity, of humanism? It characterizes a traditional African society. I mean, if you get, well, now things are changing in a bad direction, by the way. But when, in my specific country, when we fought against colonialism, people did a lot of sacrifice. Imagine people in a society where 90% of the population was analphabet, could not neither read nor write. Fight and defeat an army that was supported by NATO. How is that possible? There was something that we used. The spirit and the ambition, the feeling of being, you know, who we are supposed to be. And solidarity plays a great role on this. Now, I want the common African ruler. He want to have several cars. Mountains in Europe. How many mountains have been confiscated? Lately in France. Before that, in Hollywood, the son of the president of Equatorial Guinea, or the president of, I don't know, Congo, and all these guys. There are the people starving. Why? How comes that they feel normal acting like the way they do? So we have a challenge, a real challenge that we should not ignore. It is a shame, I agree, that after half a century, we are still fighting the same fight. It was time enough to get rid of these things. But as another gentleman said, there is a lot of minds still colonized.
Yeah, so, but this is the point, that, so as a writer, perhaps we need to be moving away from telling people the old story of, oh, but you know, we were colonized, oh, but this happened, and tell them, no, you are the other.
This is one of the reasons why I'm doing theater now. Things that happen on your day-to-day life and you put on the stage. People laugh sometimes, but it touched them. When it finished, they commented. And you put on the national agenda issues that people try, the rulers try to keep hidden. There are challenges that we need to face. We cannot postpone. And who should do that? Not the politician, not the ruler. It should be the people, and in first line, the writer. He has this mission, let's call it this way. Okay? I'm not saying that we should blame colonialism all the time, no. And 60 years of independence, most of the African countries, is enough. But because the roots are so deep, we need to mention this situation. It is not the only reason. We need to tell people that accountability is something we should talk about. these politicians should be held accountable. This is something they don't want. The Chinese, just to change a little bit, they come in the country, they cut trees, ton of them, and then leave your forest, in a situation that you will have a lot of trouble to get them the way. And all these climate changes that we hear talking about are also based on this. But who gives them the license to cut the trees?
The government. Us. We.
Yeah. So we are co-responsible for everything. It is why we should tell loud and clear that we are all part of the game.
Okay. Yeah. Is there anyone else wants? Okay. So just in conclusion, for you to tell us, as we end this conversation, because it's been a very, very insightful conversation, what's the vision? One day, when you look out in Africa, what is it you want to see?
I have seen some of it yesterday. We visited some libraries, not the Macmillan one, but other in far away here. What's the name? The one that is run by Book Bank.
Okay, a library. Okay.
A library. Actually, we visited two of them. What did I see? Young people sitting there, working on their computers, reading books. This is what we need.
Okay.
Again, we are engaged in a game of anticipation. We need to put in the mind of these young people the right ideas so that they can do the right things.
Thank you.
Vision.
Thank you very much. Yes, a nation that reads. Again, a subject so close to our hearts. Can you join me in thanking Abdulai?